Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? 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 We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. So, interesting week this week. You already heard from me once as we talked about saying goodbye to Miso, the red panda at Greensboro Science Center. And, that one was tough, y'all. And I got a lot of positive feedback on the little 10-minute therapy session that I put out there. I actually thought it was really sweet. My son Miles and I were chatting today, and he was catching up on the pod, and he said he couldn't listen to that one because it made him too sad to hear me so sad. So I thought that was very, very sweet of him, and spoke to, I guess, the fact that my emotions did come through there. And I've been thinking a lot about the podcast and stuff. And I guess I had more thoughts in light of everything that came from that this week. First of all, I think it's amazing, this community that we've all built together here around Rossifari. When I set out to do this podcast, I just wanted to share the stories of people and animals at cool accredited facilities. That was it. That was the whole extent of my goal. I didn't really have a goal. I didn't know. I thought if I made it 6 episodes, I'd be kicking butt. And yet so much has come from it. And so many people are such a cool part of this community now. It's funny. I mentioned in my little goodbye to Miso segment that I got back to my phone after a gig, and there were so many messages. They were just stacked, and I had to scroll. And I just quickly scrolled down as fast as I could to see if there were any, texts or phone calls, because, while I love you all, Instagram messages don't have that same personal thing. And I just wanted to make sure, before I dove into whatever was going on in the zoo world, I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't missing any texts or anything. And as it scrolled, I saw the name Miso so many times, and I was like, crap. And then literally the last message, the first one I had gotten, the last one that I got to, was from Becca at Greensboro texting me to let me know before it went public. And the fact that so many people reached out in the hour and a half that I was on stage is absolutely incredible and astonishing to me, and just speaks to the community that we've built. And like I said, so many people who only discovered Miso through Rossifari and the Greensboro Science Center socials and all of our collaborations, and fell in love with her and either traveled to see her or never even saw her and just followed her through our socials, but we're completely in love with her. It's just such an astonishing story. What an amazing testament to this community and the overall, zoological community when we get together and do things. And I'm not going to lie, it was really weird to record the stuff for Tuesday's episode, which I thought was a fantastic episode, by the way. But to do the intro and outro and all the things and know that I had just released this really personal, really thing, like hard thing, and had gone through it with y'all. And then it was just back to business as usual. And it feels that way now again a little bit, honestly, doing the first Zoo News after such a challenging thing. And unfortunately, you're going to hear about some other challenging things that happened this week and how they touch me as well. So, it's been a challenge. But the crazy thing is, and the thing that I was constantly reminded of, is that this is what zookeepers and vets and all of the people at these amazing facilities do all the time. Because even with the passing of Miso, the 3 other pandas at the Greensboro Science Center needed to be cared for that day, that night, the next day, all of the things. Not to mention all of the other animals that are on that string. So you can't just stop. You can't just have everyone who loved her take the day and recuperate, because if you did, the facility would have to shut down and the animals would all go hungry. And so it's just such an incredible reminder of how amazing all of the people that do this work are. And this is why compassion fatigue is real, and why the death by suicide rate of veterinarians is like twice as high as that of, the rest of the population. It's all important stuff to remember. And I spent a lot of time thinking about it and remembering it this week. But moving on from that topic, because this won't be just a second Miso episode, the rest of life has actually been really good. I was on tour this week with my show Under the Sun, which has now been renamed the $1 Million Experience because it sells better, I guess. And we had a couple of new guys and they crushed it, and the music was great and the shows were great and the venues were great, and got to see some people. Danny and Emily and Megan from Southwick came out and saw us at Foxwoods, and it was so cool to go out and catch up with those people and to, be on the other side, being the one doing the show, as Megan put it, as opposed to me usually watching them doing their bird show. So I found all of that quite fun and funny, and just, I just had a great time. And it was so great to have such amazing supportive friends there. And I loved that. And I had some friends in Philly for one of our shows there as well. And speaking of Philly, I'll actually be heading down there in a couple of weeks to do $1 Million Quartet at Walnut Street Theater. So if you happen to be in the greater Philadelphia area, let's chat. You should come out. You should see the show. It's going to be a really good one. I hope. I mean, we haven't started it yet, but that tends to be the trend when I am involved. So real quick, before we get to it, if this is your first time here and you're wondering what I'm rambling about, I apologize, but this is Rossifari Zoo News. It is a crowdsourced Zoo News program. And if you would like to contribute, you can do so by tagging me in Zoo News stories on the socials or emailing them to me, rossifaripod@gmail.com. And we got lots of stuff to talk about. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right, no headline story this week, because last week I did a headline story about how much hope I had for Miso, and she passed away that day. So headline stories are now a thing of the past. No, I'm kidding. I will continue to do them. There just isn't anything that I want to do a deep dive on this week, so we will get right to our births for the week. And yet again, we have a lot of red panda births, though none are in the United States for this week. Zoo Plankendale in Mechelen, Belgium, has welcomed twin red panda cubs. They are safe in their nest box with mom Amber, who is doing a great job, and she's regularly actually moving them between a couple of nest boxes, which is a common strategy used by panda moms to keep them safe. So very unlikely that you will see them if you are at the zoo. However, there is a chance that you will see them getting moved from box to box. And then Parc Merveilleux in Bettembourg, Luxembourg, is celebrating the birth of twin red panda cubs. The two are doing quite well. And, honestly, this has been a particularly great year for panda births in areas that aren't, the places where you see this all the time. Last week, we talked about some cubs born in India, and now we're adding Luxembourg and Belgium to the list. And it's very cool to see that, along with the more common European and, American zoos that tend to have a lot of births every year. And we're actually still not done with panda births, as Manor Wildlife Park has welcomed red panda triplets to mom Betty and dad Barney. All three are doing quite well, which is actually fairly rare for red pandas when they are triplets. Usually they become twins fairly regularly. So that's really exciting news. Betty is apparently a great and attentive mom and hasn't been driven crazy by having triplets yet, which I find rather impressive. They haven't been out of their nest boxes much yet, but staff does have eyes on them and are pleased with everything they are seeing so far. And then last but not least, in the red panda birth arena, Fota Wildlife Park has also entered the conversation, as two cubs have been born to mom Susie and father Grega. I think it's pronounced Grega. It's just spelled Grga, which, like, you know, who needs two vowels when you can get away with one? Anyway, the cubs are doing well, as are all the other ones we're talking about here, and also are still in their nest boxes. But yeah, this is just a great time to be a fan of red panda birds, and I'm loving how many of them are happening either in places that you don't hear about it as regularly, or in some cases in places where you basically never hear about it. So very, very exciting stuff. And then a couple other animals have been born, because it turns out that red pandas aren't the only animals that we care about on this podcast. Probably. No, but the Denver Zoo has welcomed 4 lion cubs to the family after mom Aurelie was in labor for 18 hours. The babies are doing well, and mom is taking great care of them behind the scenes. Their dad is Usiko, and he's known for his calm demeanor, which is not something that, you know, all male lions possess. And one very, very cool part of this story is that the pride at the zoo now represents 4 generations, with great-grandma Nelia, grandma Kamara, mom Arali, and now the new cubs all at the same facility. Love hearing about multi-generational families like that. The Jacksonville Zoo has welcomed 3 adorable warthog piglets to mom Nisora. One of the piglets is a runt who only weighs half as much as her sisters, but even the littlest one is actually doing great and nursing well. Father Mateo is out of the picture right now, but that means he's visible on exhibit while the little ones bond with mom behind the scenes. Also, if you haven't seen it, I posted a video a couple years ago now on TikTok of warthogs at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. And the way that they run and the energy with which they run is honestly not what you would expect from a warthog. And it's pretty fascinating. So yeah, if you get the chance to check these little ones out once they're visible, I highly recommend it. Our friends at Southwick Zoo have announced the birth of a baby giraffe born to mom Molly. Molly and the calf are both doing well. Many guests have a deep love for Molly. She's one of the more popular animals at the zoo, so this is a really exciting time for the Southwick Zoo family. And then last but not least, the Philadelphia Zoo has welcomed 9 critically endangered Western Santa Cruz Galapagos tortoises to the family, meaning that 16 have hatched there this year. This clutch, 6 males and 3 females, are the second ever clutch to hatch at the Philadelphia Zoo after Mommy, the roughly 100-year-old tortoise who had never had offspring before, gave birth earlier this year. So yeah, Philly is absolutely rocking this Galapagos tortoise birth situation. And yeah, it's really exciting. The first 2 in the 100-plus year history of the Philly Zoo all this year. Love it. But of course, that brings us to the other side of things, the deaths for the week. And, you know, this whole section is always such a rough patch for me. I've talked about this before, but sometimes as I'm writing this up or recording this, I have to, take breaks because sometimes it's just a really hard week in this department. And reading through the different memories of the different animals that facilities put out, and often talking to keepers or volunteers or vets or people who knew the animals in some cases, it's challenging. It's the hardest part of doing zoo news by far. And when they are animals I knew or cared about, it obviously gets harder. And this week, this is actually one of the hardest weeks I've ever had doing this podcast. So obviously, Miso at Greensboro Science Center passed away this week after battling a disease that's similar to Addison's disease. And I know, you all know, and I put out a whole mini episode about it, and I talked about it at the beginning of this podcast, but it didn't feel right to not include her in this section, at least briefly. She was so loved by all that knew her, including me, and is just so greatly missed. And then there is an animal that I never had the pleasure of meeting, but that became one of my all-time favorite animals in the world. Rocky, the Lumholtz tree kangaroo at Lone Pine Koala Sanctuary, has passed away. You heard all about Rocky on my episode with Anna Martins, and the effect he had on his keepers and those that met him in other capacities was just huge. He made so many people fall in love with tree kangaroos and start to care about their conservation that just by being himself. He made huge strides in helping to save his species. Rocky, who was also known as Rockstar, or Rocky B, arrived at Lone Pine a few years ago after being saved and rehabilitated at the Tree-Roo Rescue in Australia. Rocky was one of those animals who was always in charge and who the keepers had to learn from. He was a larger-than-life animal who you could just bask in his presence. And often his keepers loved sitting with him while he ate his avocados or almonds, and they just kind of enjoyed the quiet connection they would share with Rocky in that moment. Well, quiet, except for his incredible crunches. One of the reasons I loved Rocky so much is that Anna and I have gone on to become good friends, like the online kind, because, Australia. And she would regularly send me videos and pictures of the guy as she was taking care of him. And any time that I would get a notification that I had a message from Anna, I would just be like, "Ooh, this is the best thing ever. I know who I'm going to see." And it was always Rock. And, in my conversations with Anna, she always made it clear how much Rocky inspired her to care about tree kangaroo conservation and how Dr. Karen Coombs, who runs the Tree Kangaroo Rescue, has become a personal hero to her. So you take that impact that Rocky had on one person and you multiply it by all of the lives he touched, and you can tell how impressive this one little man was and how much of an incredible impact he had on the lives of the people that saw him, and also on the conservation of his species. So I am sending my love to Anna and all of the team at Lone Pine. This is such a sad loss. And actually, after I started working on this episode, I got an email from the Doorley Zoo in Omaha letting me know that Star, the female red panda, has passed away. You might remember Star from some of the videos and pictures I've posted since my time visiting there. She's the panda you see eating bamboo shoots and just really crunching down on them. Star was such a joyful panda who was known for being a very quick learner, and that was evident in the training session I got to observe with her. And in general, she was just wonderful when it came to training. Sadly, she started experiencing seizures on Saturday morning and was transported to the veterinary hospital, where the team tried everything in their power to save her, but she passed peacefully on Wednesday morning. Even though we only hung out once, Star made a huge impact on me. She was one of those pandas who you could just tell was super smart. Looking into her eyes felt like communication, beyond just the standard feed me now communication that most pandas will make at that point. I remember that some of her care team were a little hesitant when I first got to the habitat, unsure of how much I would be recording or trying to get information from them. But when I made it clear I was just there for some cool pics and videos of Star because I thought she was incredible, and it wasn't like an interview with them, you could just see the barriers go down and the excitement shine through as they got to share such a beloved animal with me. It honestly reminded me of when I first started visiting zoos en masse and was constantly amazed at how keepers would come to life when I got them talking about particularly special animals, which is, as you know, a large part of what inspired this podcast. So this is a really hard loss for me and an incredibly difficult loss for the team. And again, I'm just sending them all the love. And, speaking of animals that are wildly inspirational, Taroko, one of the whale sharks at the Georgia Aquarium, has passed away. Wellness monitoring showed changes in his appetite and behavior, and despite getting the best care possible from the vet and care teams at the aquarium, his condition continued to decline, so the decision was made to euthanize him. Taroko was rescued from a seafood market back in 2007 and was taken to Atlanta for his forever home. I will personally never forget my first visit to the Georgia Aquarium. I was still new to visiting zoos and aquariums and had done no research at all. I actually wasn't even sure if I was going to make the aquarium that day because I knew I wanted to go to the zoo to see another red panda because I had only seen a few at that point and was falling in love with the species. So I started my day at the zoo and I went and I saw Iggy, who y'all know I loved, and I was in such a great place. And then I was like, oh, hey, there's this little aquarium in Atlanta too. I should go check it out. Whew, I had no clue. So I got there and I saw this massive building and I started to think I might be in for a good time. And I walked in and I went right to the tunnel they have, because I love those things, And boom, a freaking whale shark and a manta ray were swimming above my head. To this day, I have never been more surprised by a habitat. And then I got to the wall. And if you've been to the Georgia Aquarium, you know exactly what I mean. There is just a huge wall that lets you look into the ocean, basically. That's what it feels like. Tank, the green sea turtle who lives there, looks downright minuscule compared to the size of the habitat. And there are the whale sharks and the manta rays, and there are eels and fish, and it's the ocean, but like well below the surface. And I just couldn't even process it all. That moment has never left me, and no matter how many times I have seen the whale sharks there, I have never not had my breath taken away. Their presence has made millions of people care about saving the ocean, and to be inspired by seeing what it looks like underneath the waves. And then those of us that got to go up top and watch staff feeding Taroko and the other whale sharks from boats because you need to take a boat out into the water because this habitat is so huge. What an absolutely incredible thing to see. What a stunning animal, and one that is part of many memories I will hold dear for my entire life. So yeah, sending love to that team as well, and just, can't believe that this has been a week where 4 animals that I very much loved passed away. But obviously, that's not it. And there's another place that is going through a rough time right now, which is the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, where they said goodbye to 3 huge personalities this week, which obviously makes for a very challenging week there as well. First, they said goodbye to Calic, a 24-year-old male polar bear. Calic had begun showing signs of age-related illness, and upon thorough examination, the decision was made to humanely euthanize him. Calic was an orphaned cub back in 2001 who had no chance of surviving in the wild when he was found, and was given his forever home at the San Diego Zoo. There he thrived, along with his sister Tatquick and another abandoned cub that had been found around the same time, Chinook. He was known for a calm strength and also an inquisitive and adventurous nature. 24 is an incredible age for a species that lives around 15 to 18 years on average, and this one kind of got a rough start to life. So one of the cool things about the story is that his team was able to be around him and say goodbye to him as he passed, and after his passing, the other 2 polar bears were given the opportunity to say goodbye as well. The zoo also said goodbye to Nikki, the matriarch of the Maasai giraffe herd at the zoo. She was 28 years old, the oldest Maasai giraffe in North America. As with Calic, she was showing signs of advanced age, and the team knew it was time to let her go, so they went the compassionate way and euthanized her. She had been at the zoo since 1999 and was an incredible anchor for the Tower of Giraffes during that time. Her latest grandchild was born at the zoo just last month. And then Maka, a 30-year-old male western lowland gorilla, has also passed away at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. When he was 5 years old, Maka was diagnosed with chromosomal abnormalities, but a care plan was devised that helped him live well beyond the age that would be expected given those issues. He recently began experiencing seizures, and during an examination for them, underwent a cardiac event. Each of these losses come in such a close proximity to each other, and all are huge losses, but they also show just how incredible the care at the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance is. All 3 animals lived way beyond what would be expected and had remarkable lives in the process. The San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance cares for over 12,000 animals, so the loss of 3 in a week isn't unexpected. But the fact that this week has featured 3 iconic animals passing is honestly just a lot for the care teams and the PR teams and everybody at the facilities there. I hope everyone is able to find peace during this challenging time and to take pride in the lives they gave these animals. And then last but not least this week, Kiaria, an 8-year-old red panda who called the Hogle Zoo home, has passed away after experiencing gastrointestinal challenges. Over the last few weeks, as she showed signs of illness, the animal care and veterinary teams worked hard to change her diet and provide medication for her. She actually seemed to be doing quite well, and her personality returned to her usual playful self before a rapid and severe decline. So sad to see another pass away, and sending all my love to the team at Hogle. And that was a really heavy section, even for a deaths section. But moving on to the rest of our zoo news, those of you who have been listening for a long time may remember an interview with the EVAC Foundation in Panama, EVACC. This is an organization dedicated to saving the Panamanian golden frog, and they do amazing work. It was one of the first episodes I did that focused on in situ conservation, and there was a lot of it that was eye-opening and that has stuck with me to this day. One of the biggest things that we discussed was that, at the time we recorded, there had been a split in the organization over how to handle certain things, and some of the people literally took their frogs and went home, taking the property as well. So the end result was that the team was living in a hotel and trying to breed their remaining frogs in a spare room in said hotel. And that image has always stuck with me so much. The hope of a species being raised in a hotel because some people didn't like how certain things were happening. I learned so much when I did that interview, and I constantly keep my eyes open for that type of thing as I work with zoos and the conservation organizations that I'm involved with. But I digress. The point here is that we have some good news about our friends at the EVAC Foundation, and it comes in collaboration with our good friends at the Maryland Zoo. Now, the team at EVAC has gotten settled into a location and are now able to actually raise golden frog tadpoles outdoors for the first time in their history. This is a huge deal as it allows the tadpoles to get used to their native habitat from the start, giving them a better understanding of what they will face when they are released into the wild. So much of the support for this project, from financial support to the testing of methods used for this, have come from the Maryland Zoo, where saving the Panamanian golden frog is a huge priority. Honestly, when I was growing up, I thought the plight of the golden frog was as well known as that of giant pandas and sea turtles to the general public, because I went to the Maryland Zoo a lot and they make a big deal about it there. So I'm so proud of the work that they and everyone at EVACC are doing. And while we are on the subject of Panamanian golden frogs, one of the huge threats to the species is chytrid, the deadly amphibian disease that has been wiping out many species of amphibians. Recently, Smithsonian researchers looked at 13 years of climate data and chytrid disease data from Panama, and they realized that specific weather patterns preceded significant outbreaks of the disease. This realization allowed scientists to create predictive models of when the disease will become worse in certain areas, and thus steps will be able to be taken to help amphibians in those areas before the outbreaks happen. The study also helped scientists understand the difference between mild and severe infections of chytrid, so they will be better able to focus their energy on fighting the severe infections first. All of this is huge news for amphibians, and mad props to the team at the Smithsonian for figuring it out. The Akron Zoo recently released an update on some of the red wolf pups they cross-fostered that headed into the wild in North Carolina. One of the females has now given birth to 3 pups, 2 females and 1 male. This is extremely exciting news and is such a testament to the amazing work being done for the species at the Akron Zoo. Sadly, the father of the pups was hit by a car and did not survive to see them born, which is a stark reminder of the threats facing this critically endangered species in the wild. So far, the mother seems to be doing well as a single mother, no doubt in part because of her Akron Zoo upbringing. Our friends at Roger Williams Park Zoo have come up with a pretty cool and unique strategy to help one of their animals. Wasabi, one of the Watusi that call the zoo home, developed an ear infection last year that led to a lasting head tilt. The infection was successfully treated, but the head tilt didn't go away, most likely because his neck muscles had weakened unevenly from carrying his huge horns at a weird angle. So the team decided to try horn weights, similar to ankle or wrist weights for humans. The weights are taped to his horns to help him rebuild muscles and improve balance, and so far, Watusi is doing an absolutely great job. Love seeing these novel therapeutic ideas. And then last but not least, in Zoo News this week, we recently shared a story from the Edinburgh Zoo in which they were asking residents to reach out to their local government in an effort to ban fireworks in certain areas of the country, including around the zoo. The effort was inspired by the death of Roxy, the baby red panda, who passed away last year after being terrified by the fireworks on bonfire night. The council has agreed, and the zoo is now in a fireworks exclusion zone. Justice for Roxy! I love that part of her legacy is having this law passed. It's just so cool. And the zoo is still working with other wildlife charities to try to get fireworks shows completely banned in Edinburgh and replaced by drone shows or light displays, and to ban the sale of fireworks to the public. And that brings us to Stereotypical Animal Podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news. And that song goes out to Mr. Rob Gorman, who is a young fan who apparently really likes that one. So, Rob, we'll keep spinning that one for you every couple episodes of Zoo News, and you keep listening, bud. All right, thanks. And now on to the real conservation news. So back in April, I mentioned that the Trump administration was planning on opening marine protected areas owned by the U.S. to commercial fishing. A judge in Hawaii has now blocked that maneuver, at least until it moves further through the courts. It is so frustrating watching so many other countries wake up to the need for expanded marine protected areas while the U.S. tries to fight the idea, but at least there are judges here fighting the good fight. A 300-mile area of California coast from Santa Cruz to Sonoma is seeing an outbreak of leptospirosis, which is impacting sea lions. As this fatal kidney disease spreads, it is worth watching both because of the impact it can have on the sea lion population and because this is a zoonotic disease, meaning it can transfer to people. In this case, it can also transfer from humans or sea lions to pets. So if you're in that area of California, please be careful whether you are a human, a pet who is listening to this, or a sea lion who is somehow listening to this. This is particularly troubling because sea lion, pinniped rescues in general, marine mammal rescues in general in California are overwhelmed because of some other stuff that's been going on right now. So, this disease isn't going to help that situation at all. Leopard shark populations are in steep decline in the Raja Ampat archipelago, with 20 adults seeming to be the entire population left in the area. Fortunately, leopard shark breeding has become pretty well done and understood over the years, and now many local conservationists have started breeding and raising baby leopard sharks for release into the wild. This effort is truly a last-ditch effort to save the species in the area, but so far, there are a lot of promising indications that it will work. However, the shark trade in the area is extremely lucrative, meaning this will ultimately come down to whether the laws that protect the sharks are enforced strictly enough to prevent their poaching or not, and only time will tell. Fortunately, with conservationists focusing on these animals and caring about the animals that they drop into the wild, hopefully there will be more of a push for that. I remain positive. A mass die-off of monarch butterflies that took place in California in 2024 has now been explained. Researchers believe that the butterflies, which were found twitching or already dead and laying in piles, were killed by pesticides. Testing showed an average of 7 pesticides in each of the bugs, and at levels that researchers suspect are lethal. It is difficult to truly prove that pesticides kill butterflies in the wild because it is difficult to find and test them shortly after they die, which would be necessary for proof that that was the cause of death. But the evidence sure seems to be pointing in that direction, despite what pesticide fans want to say. And then last but not least, in conservation news this week, there is a lot made about the positives and negatives of wind turbines, which provide cheap and clean energy, but which can also kill off a lot of birds. Well, now a study in Norway has found that painting just one of a turbine's 3 blades black can lead to a 70% reduction in bird fatalities. This is a wonderful and low-cost method to help save birds while continuing to make clean energy. And the best part is, with it being, relatively quick and cheap, hopefully more research will go into ways to get that number even higher. But yeah, love this. Absolutely love it. It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, now, right now, it's time. It's time for other news. only one story in other news this week. A hiker was hiking on a trail. There was a snake. The snake had a rattle. The snake rattled its rattle at him. And the hiker apparently thought, oh, that's cool. I should pick that rattlesnake up. The rattlesnake bit him. The hiker died. And it made the news, and some anti-snake people are pointing to the story as proof that rattlesnakes are bad. And nope. If you don't pick up the danger noodle that is using its percussion instrument to tell you that it would very much like to be left alone, please, then you'll be fine. So that's my advice. The best part is that the one story I saw in it just had the headline, hiker picks up rattlesnake, gets bitten, dies. And I don't fully know if a headline can be called cynical when it just presents the facts, but I'm just saying I dug the vibe of that headline. Do with that what you will.
Oh, animal holidays. Animal holidays. Hey!
It is August, which is Asian Elephant Awareness Month, National Catfish Month, National Parks Month, and August is for Antelope Month. And we only have one day with any animal holidays this week. The 26th is both National Dog Day and World African Painted Dog Day. So they get double dog days. Something, Dog Day Afternoon, something, movie, Al Pacino. You're welcome. All right, so there you have it, folks. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News is in the books. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Schenk, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, and Kevin Williams. I would also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed to this week's episode, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbook, Anna McEachran, Miles Rossi, Lizard Dunlevy, Maddie Patz, Ken Tryon, Dr. Laura Schenk, Holly Page, Crystal Chapman, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky,
The Malenskys.
Dr. Natalie Taco, Amanda Berg, Sam Evans, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Jay Meredith, Ann Yoshioka, Barbara Bennett, Melissa Reed, Michaela Baretka, JC Becerra, and JC, I have to tell you, your wedding photos, my goodness. You looked like a princess and the whole thing looked like a fairy tale. So congratulations. Becca Robinson, Stephanie Hare, and Chris Infield. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. Nice to see so many returning names and also a couple of new ones. We'll be back here on Tuesday, and I mentioned this last Tuesday, but in case you didn't listen to that, you need to be here on Tuesday. You need to be here on Tuesday as soon as you can. You need to be on Instagram. You need to be on Facebook. You need to be all the places, and you need to be listening to what might be one of the, if not the most special moments to occur on the Rossifari podcast. So I will see you then. And until then, don't forget, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. The infection was successfully treated, but the hell to tilt.